So can I have a volunteer read the word problem? Volunteer read that word problem at the top.
Explosion cost the price for party. 3 rolls for streamers and 15 party hats cost $7. Later you bought 2 rolls of streamers and 4 party hats for $11. How much did each roll of streamers cost? How much did each party hat cost?
Beautiful. So when we read this, a lot of people are like, whoa, what is that, right? So the first thing you need to do is define your variables. So sometimes it will say x, let x be this and y be that. Sometimes it won't. So see how it doesn't have let x be this and y be this? So the first thing you want to do is you're going to have to define your own variables. And so how we usually do that, and we talked about this during system of inequalities, is whatever they talk about first is the first thing we're looking at. So it says 3 rows of streamers, right? So the first thing they're talking about are the streamers. So I'm going to let x be the streamers. And 15 party hats. So I know my y is going to be party hats. So I usually just go in order. A lot of times they'll tell you let x be this and y be that. Usually it's in order anyways. So first thing we do is define our variables. Make sure. Then we have to figure out our situation. So sometimes it's like, remember that money goes with money goes with money? Total goes with total that we learned before. Some of them are going to be different. Some of them will be in slope-intercept form. Some of them will be two totally different situations. This one happens to be one where it's 2 different situations. So this person bought 3 streamers, 15 party hats for $30. 2 rolls of streamers, 4 party hats for $11. Do you guys see how it's 2 different situations? He went to the store once. This is what he bought. He went to the store the second time. This is what he bought. You guys see how it's 2 different situations? And so each of those situations are going to be an equation. And so how I do that, I know 3 rolls. So group your situations. I know 3 rolls of streamers, right? 3x plus my 15 party hats, and we defined y as party hats, cost $30. So some of the situations you'll be reading it, and so if it's 2 totally different it's 2 situations that happen 2 different times, right? So they got this was how much they paid. Then later he buys 2 rolls of streamers, and I know it's 2x, and 4 party hats for $11. Then we want to make sure we're different. We want to figure out how much is he paying for each one. So I know in the end I'm going to have to figure out, based on these 2 situations, how much is a streamer, how much is a party hat. And so this goes for both these, right? We were able to group them and figure out, okay, how do we write them as equations? Next thing I want to do is identify what approach I'm going to take. So we have 3 different approaches. We learned graphing, where you can sit there and graph, right? But if they don't provide you a graph, I probably wouldn't do it. You're not going to want to sit there and graph it and draw your own graph. Maybe you will, but it seems like not efficient. Then substitution. Some people like moving it around and dividing and getting a variable by itself and doing all that. If you want to do that, that's fine. But when 2 equations are in standard form, the easiest way to do it is elimination. So because both equations are in standard form, I'm going to use elimination. So because both equations are in standard form, which means x and y are on the same side, elimination would be the easiest. That's what we've been practicing. Does that make sense so far? So the only extra part we're adding on today is creating the equations. The rest of it is not anything new. Now we're going to be solving for a variable. So I'm going to rewrite my equations first. 3x other equations with each group. I just did it, I could write out 3 streamers plus 15 party hats is $30, but it's the same thing if I just write the equations. So I'm gonna rewrite them again right here. And so you may notice that there isn't one thing that I can do. There's not one equation I can multiply that would make them the same number, different sign. So we're going to go one step further and figure out, okay, I need to figure out, am I going to play with my x's or my y's to get them to be the same coefficient, different sign? It doesn't matter which one you play with, as long as you end up getting the same coefficient. I'm going to play with the x's. And so I know that I need these two x's to be the same number, different sign. What's the smallest number, raising your hand, that 3 and 2 can both go into? Yes, 6, right? And so now you need to figure out, okay, which one's going to be positive, which one's going to be negative. I'm just going to make the top one positive and the bottom one negative. What did you say? You can choose which one, yeah. So if you wanted to choose the y's, you could have done 60, right? Because both of them go into 60. But I'm going to use the x's. Then I need to figure out, okay, what do I multiply 3 by to get 6? 2. And what do I need to multiply 2 by to get negative 6? Negative 3. Then you're just going to multiply. And don't forget to multiply and spread the love, multiply each one. And so see if you can come up with your new equations. Multiply each one and figure out what's your new coefficient for y and what's your new constant. So when I multiply 2 times 15, you end up getting 30, positive 30y. And when you multiply 2 times 30, you would get 60. And then we do the same thing with the bottom. We multiply negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12, and negative 3 times 11, which is 33. What do I always do between the two equations to eliminate?
Cross out.
Cross out, but why do we cross out? What are we doing with these two? Is it 6 minus negative 6? Is it 6 plus negative 6? What do I do to be able to cross them out?
You have to add them up.
Add them, right? Because 6 plus negative 6 ends up equaling 0. That's why they cross out. So I'm going to start crossing them out, and I end up getting, what's 30 plus negative 12?
18.
So you end up getting 18y, and then 60 minus 33, or 60 plus 33, sorry about that, 93. What did I do wrong? It's negative 33. So I was correct. What's 60 plus negative 33? 27. Then, how do I get y by itself? Divide by 18. What did I say? 1.5, right? And so let's make sure a decimal makes sense in this situation. So when I go back up to the top, what did we say y represented? Party hats. We wanted to see how much they cost, right? And so we know each party hat costs how much? $1.50. Yeah, that's your y. And so because I got that as y, I need to figure out, okay, what did I just find? I found that a party hat costs $1.50. Then the next step is the same as what we've been doing. We need to plug our y in to figure out how much is x, which x was streamers. So I need to figure out how much streamers are. And so to do that, I'm going to use black. You choose whichever equation you want. I'm going to choose the second one, 2x plus 4y equals 11. And I know that a party hat is 150. So I'm gonna put 150 in for Y. So this is just the same we've been doing. And so when you do that, what is 4 times 1.5? And then you get x by itself, so I would subtract 6 on both sides. And you end up getting 2x equals 5. Then what do you do? Divide. And what is 5 divided by 2? 2.5. So we know streamers are $2.50. So I'm going to go up here. And a pack of streamers is $2.50. Because that's what I got for it. And so we already did this right here. Define what each variable means. So we'll write it again. A pack of streamers. We know costs $2.50. And we know a pack of packs costs. And that's why it's important to define our variables so we know like what we're finding. And last part, you don't always have to do it, but I would do it on assessments. Plug in 2.5 for x and 1.5 for y and make sure it makes sense. So like in your calculator, make sure you're always going, okay, let me make sure it makes sense. I'm going to plug in 2.5 for x and 1.5 in for y. And make sure they equal that amount. Make sure this one should equal 30 and this one should equal 11. So in your calculator, you're going to check real quick, start with the first equation and then do the second equation. Make sure they both make sense. If they don't, that means you did something incorrect. So you would type this right into your calculator. 3 parentheses 2.5 plus 15 parentheses 1.5, and you should get 30 as your answer. If you do, you go to the next one. If you don't, you did something wrong. So check it real quick, make sure you did it correctly. And give me a thumbs up that you thought you did it correctly.
Easy.
So it seems like a lot of work. It's just we kind of are gearing up to word problems. And so word problems are like really large on your SAT, ACT, all these system of equations. And most of your milestone open-ended questions are word problems, well, system of equations. So this unit, if you got it down, this unit is like really large on your milestone because it's basically, I feel like it's one of the most important. All right, we ready to move on to the second one?
No.
Not yet? Okay. So second one, you're writing in the same notes. So like go to the second one, you're writing, it's the same notes. We're just doing one more problem together. So those fill in the blanks.
Wait a minute.
Uh-huh. Okay, so we're going to start on the second one. It's basically the same thing, but I want you to see different types of questions. There's going to be more than these different types of questions. Like some of them will be in slope-intercept form, but you want to make sure you're aware. The more practice you get with this, the better.
These are the same ones from the last one.
Yeah, same notes. Like these. So first one says your teacher is giving a test worth 100 points containing 40 questions. There are 2-point questions and 4-point questions on the test. How many type of each question, or how many of each type of question are on the test? So first we look at what's the question asking. It's how many type of questions. And so what are the different point questions that are going to be on this test? What's one of the type of questions? How many points are those worth? That's how much they're all worth. There's 2-point questions, right? We have 2-point questions and 4-point questions. So I'm going to make X represent my 2-point questions. And y represent my 4-point questions. And so you guys can see that this is different from the last one, because the last one, it was 2 different scenarios. They went to the store one time, then they went to the store another time. This one is like the money goes with money situation. Because we have points here, and we also have questions. So first we need to do our situation. So we have one situation is going to be what the points are worth, and one is going to be about the questions. So notice it's the same scenario now, it's just 2 different parts of it. So I know one is going to be about the points, one is going to be about the questions. And so with the points, we can see points goes with points goes with points. And so how much are the 2-point questions worth? 4. This is how much are the 2-point questions worth? How many points? 2. So 2-point questions plus the 4-point questions. And how many points total are there? 100 points total. So that's going to be my points. Points goes with points goes with points. Just like when it was money goes with money goes with money, they're all in the same equation. Then we've got questions. So we got the 2-point questions. We've got the 4-point questions, and we don't have to put 2 and 4 because those are points. We're done with those. All the total questions, how many total questions are there? 40 questions. Yeah, it would be like 1x and 1y. And so sometimes you're going to be setting it up like this. Sometimes it's not going to be 2 different scenarios. Sometimes it's going to be 1, but 2 different parts of it. So this will just, the more questions you see, the more practice you get, the better you'll get at it. And we're spending today and tomorrow this practice. Next, identify what approach. So if you like moving it around, like you're like, hey, I can just move y to the other side and do substitution, you could totally do that. That's an easy substitution. You like that better anyways. You could also do elimination and graphing, but I feel like graphing, I would only use if there was a graph. So I'm going to use, you can use a substitution or elimination. But substitution, you would have to move it around to get variable by itself. Or we can use elimination because they're both in the same variable. I'm going to use substitution just to show you how you would go about this substitution in case you need like a refresher on it. So I'm first finding which equation is easiest to get a variable by itself, the red one or the black one? The black one, right? It's x plus y equals 40. Now it doesn't matter which one I move around. I'll move y to the other side to get x by itself. So how would I get y to the other side? Subtract, right? And you would end up getting x equals 40 minus y, because I can't combine unlike terms, right? So if it was 40 minus 1, then it would be 39. Or if it was 40y minus 1y, it would be 39. So this is back substitution. So now I'm using the second equation, this one, but instead of x, what are we going to plug in for x? What's x getting substituted with? 40 minus y. So I'm going to write out the equation. And instead of x, yes, you can do elimination too. Like you could have multiplied the bottom by -2 or -4 and gone through that way too. Because if you multiply by -2, which eliminate, or -4, it would work that way. Like I could have multiplied the bottom equation by -2 or -4, and I could have used elimination. I'm just showing what it looks like substitution. I like elimination better, but if you like substitution, I'm just showing you how it would work this way. And so now I just distribute. So 2 times 40 is 80. 2 times -y is -2y plus 4y equals 100. Are there any terms that I could combine? Which ones? Good, -2 and 4. And -2 plus 4 is just 2y. Then how do I get 80 to the other side? Because I want y by itself. And you get 2y, I'm going to write it right here, equals 20. Then what do? Divide by 2. And you end up getting y equals 10. So I'm going to put that right here. My first one is y equals 10. And so even if you tried elimination, you would have gotten the same answer. Then I plug it into the either equation to get my x. So the easiest one is probably this original one, right? X plus y, or x equals 40 minus y. What is your y? 10. X equals 40 minus 10. What is 40 minus 10?
30.
And so your point would be 30 comma 10. But now we want to know what that means. What did X stand for? 2-point question. So there are 30 2-point questions on that test. How many 4-point questions are there? What do we get for Y? 10. So we know there's 10 4-point questions. And so sometimes they're going to ask for one of them. Sometimes they ask for both of them. Usually they'll only ask for one. So you got to pay attention. If they're asking for your Y, you want to make sure you get your Y. Last thing is we plug it in. So you can write the equations out, the original ones, which were 2x. And instead of x, I'm going to put the answer that I just got, plus 4y equals 100. And x plus y equals 40. And so I know for x I got 30. And for y I got 10. And so when you plug these in, is 30 plus 10 40?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, it's 60. When I add that plus 40, 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know I got it right. Is that starting to make a little bit of sense? Okay, I'm just going to have you try one question. And so, does everyone have this sheet? If you don't, it's green or white. It looks like this. If you don't, raise your hand because I prefer not one. One, just one, just two. Okay, cool. I'll print you that one. And so, the one I want you practicing on is, I want you practicing on this one right here. It says Fernando and Amaya went to a bakery. So this one's Fernando and Amaya went to a bakery. I want you to see if you can at least write the equations. That's my goal for you guys today, to at least be able to write the equations. So you're going to try that one